That's where we start. Lions off their bye at home against the Vikings, a desperate Minnesota team that lost 2 in a row. They played that way today. Lions received the opening kickoff, drove to the 40, went for it on 4th and 4. Jared Goff to Sam Laporta. Man, watch him work after this. Carrying would-be tacklers into the end zone. Little push from Cully Freeman. He was in for the score. Laporta 66 yards receiving on that drive, 7-zip Detroit. But the Vikings answered quickly. 61-yard kickoff return set him up. J.J. McCarthy to Justin Jefferson. Nice little one-handed catch there for the strike. Game tied at 7. Later in the quarter, Minnesota added again. This time McCarthy to former Lion T.J. Hawkinson. Touchdown put Vikings on top 14-7. Second quarter, Lions able to get their offense going again. More 4th down success. David Montgomery from 2 yards out. Tied it to 14. Late second, Vikings up by 3. Looking for more. McCarthy to Jalen Naylor. But Terry and Arnold with a great play to rip it away from him for the interception. First of his career. Went into halftime with Minnesota up 17-14. Third quarter, Lions struggling on 3rd down, but they finally pick one up with Montgomery. However, he fumbled. Harrison Smith recovered for the Vikings, and they were able to cash in after that. On 3rd down, it is McCarthy breaking contain, eluding Alex Anzalone, taking it in from 8 yards out. Minnesota up by 10. Late in the third, Detroit at the 12-yard line. 3rd and 6. Goff, no chance on this one. Sacked for one of 5 times they were able to take him down on the day. Lions kicked a field goal, 7-point game, 4th quarter. Jake Bates looking for another field goal to get the Lions closer, but this was blocked. Bit of a low kick. Isaiah Rodgers picked it up, took it deep into Detroit territory. They ended up with a field goal, and the lead was back to 10. Final minutes, Lions tried to make a run at it. Goff down the sidelines to J-Mo. Originally called out, but it was reviewed. That's a touchdown. J-Mo got the Lions within 3. Then it was up to the defense. 3rd and 5 for Minnesota. McCarthy with a perfect throw to Naylor. He was able to haul it in for the 1st down, and that was it. Rough day all around for the Lions as the Vikings get the victory 27-24. Hammer has more.
Lions now are going to watch.
Overwhelming sentiment in the Lions locker room after this loss is that they beat themselves, and it was particularly glaring on offense as Detroit struggled to get the run game going and also hurt themselves, going 5 for 17 on 3rd down.
We looked rusty. We looked out of sync. We were undisciplined, and we didn't make plays, not enough of them. So that's evident that you know, I didn't have them ready, and got to do a better job, much better job.
I felt like we were ready to go. I felt fresh. We all felt fresh. Yeah, sure. I'm sure he'd like to do different things differently, but from my perspective, we did what we were supposed to do, and we didn't play well as players. We didn't at any phase, and they did.
Obviously, running the ball is the bread and butter of this offense. Was it something they did to you guys that didn't allow you to kind of get in that flow early on?
I mean, I think it was a combination of they executed their game plan well, and we didn't execute ours good enough. You know, you got to give credit to them. They played really well, especially against our run game. So then they were able to get us behind the sticks, and they were kind of able to tee off with their pressures and exotic blitzes and things like that.
We left a lot of opportunities out there in a couple drives, you know, but we lost by 3 points, man. We had the opportunities. We just got to come through on them and, you know, do our job. We still could have won that game. It's still on the table for us, all with all the mistakes we had, you know. It's hard, you know, we just got to win, that's it.
Not only was this the first time since January of 2021 that Minnesota won at Ford Field, it was also the first time in a while that we've seen the Lions make costly mistakes in all 3 phases.
Obviously, we want to be a little bit better in the red zone. I thought we got a great stop there at the end to give us a chance on that goal line play, but ultimately we gave up the 3rd down in the gotta-have-it situation, and yeah, it's just a little bit lack of flow all the way around where you feel like we had chances here and there, and they kind of slipped away.
Still want to improve, get better. That's the name of the game. As long as we continue to get better, we'll be good. But we got to, you know, correct it now, watch the tape, and make sure we don't make the same mistakes twice.
It's a gift and a curse, man. You know, the curse is on our record that we lost. We gave it to them. But the gift is, you know, we can respond, you know, in a positive way. I know we will.
With the Packers' loss, the Lions actually missed an opportunity to gain some ground in the standings, but if you want to look at it as a glass half full, they didn't lose any either. At Ford Field, Jennifer Hammond, Fox 2 Sports.
Yeah, NFC North, kind of an interesting day. Minnesota obviously won. The Bears won. Green Bay loses to Carolina. That helps, but you had a chance to take over first place. Couldn't do it. All right, official introductions. Detroit News, 97 won the ticket. Woj and Birchie over there from 97 won the ticket.com.
How are you?
Pleasure to be here.
See you.
You guys done?
Dan, nice to meet you. Get out of here.
Three-phase loss, boys. Offense, defense, special teams.
All of them.
And as a couple of folks said after the game, it's been a while since this team had a clunker in all three phases.
A total clunker. And after the game, while very disappointed, Dan Campbell, also a little bit ticked off, and also I think a little bit confused, like he wasn't sure what, and we weren't that good. I mean, this offensive line has been sort of on the brink, I wouldn't say of breaking, but they've had so many injuries and young guys, and it really buckled under that Minnesota pressure. But I felt like Campbell was bewildered, and that was their worst all-around performance going back to the Ravens game a couple of years ago.
Admittedly, there's no Frank Ragnow in there, but they had won 5 in a row against Minnesota. 4 facing this Brian Flores defense. And in all 5 games, including 4 against Brian Flores defense, they had scored more than 30 points. And it just looked at this game.
Dan Miller's second favorite stat.
Second favorite stat.
First one, though, being put to the test this week now.
Yes, 52 consecutive games without back-to-back losses. This week it'll either, we'll see what happens. But just, they had handled this in the past.
First of all, that's offensive to clunker. I've seen clunkers that look better than what we saw today. I was reminded again today, Dan Miller, and I think you were too, that the minute you think you have a team figured out, you're reminded that you actually don't know anything about anything in the NFL. And I entered this game thinking the Lions' interior of the offensive line was becoming a strength, that Jared Goff would have all the answers against that exotic, blitzing, attacking Brian Flores
like
defense,
he always does.
that this improving and fortified defense would stymie the Vikings on the ground and rattle McCarthy. Instead, the offensive line wilted and was wounded by the end. Goff and that unit looked overwhelmed at times against those exotic blitzes. The Vikings ran for, I think, 6 yards per carry, and Aaron Jones had almost 10 per carry in the first half. And to top it all off, the special teams, which has been a well-oiled machine under Dave Phipp for 3 to 4 years, laid a complete egg today. And that's how you get a reality check of a loss against a division opponent.
One thing I felt like you could not do was make it easy for J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they did that. And 2 of those were on the special teams. You go down and score, and then they give up a 61-yard kickoff return right after that. They're lucky they didn't have a kickoff return for a touchdown later in the game. But also the blocked field goal set them up with a short field, and the David Montgomery fumble set them up with a short field. That was the Vikings starting at the 36, the 26, and the 35. They turned that into 17 points. That's making life easier for J.J. McCarthy.
That's how it gets easier for a young quarterback making only his 3rd start. I totally agree. But a little bit of perspective when Birchie said, we realize we don't know the NFL. We don't know the NFL. the Packers lost at home to Carolina today.
Good point by you.
What we should have known then, and I beat myself up for this because I am the one who invented the up-down theory in the NFL. And this was class. The Vikings weren't going to go to, 2-5 or whatever they were going to. They were good. They were 14-3 last year, and they were coming in desperate, and I think the Lions were thinking how they've handled them in the past. We can beat that blitz. And Brian Flores changed some things up. They all talked about Decker and Goff talked about, they threw some different things at us. And it showed. And that offensive line, the injuries too.
Nothing that they hadn't seen before. And I think there was a lack of communication, which was reminiscent of what happened against Green Bay. But the injuries, I think, were a factor. Decker obviously right now is hurting. I mean, that's the knee, that's the shoulder. Mahogany's going to be out till deep in December at this point. All 4 of the 5 offensive linemen needed medical treatment today. The only one one who didn't get checked out by trainers or doctor at some point was Graham Glasgow. That's that we know of.
Right.
I mean, so this was a rough day all the way around. And listen, I don't want to take anything away from the Vikings. They showed up, went into that house, and beat them up.
Yeah, and there are 3 playmakers on the interior. Jonathan Allen, Jalen Redmond, and Javon Hargrave had an outsized impact on this game. Those guys combined for all kinds of quarterback hits, and I mentioned it in the postgame show at the field while you were drinking upstairs. But if you take the opening drive of the second half, I think it was Hargrave who made Ratledge whiff, and he tackled Gibbs for a 2-yard gain, and then it was maybe Redmond who made Mahogany whiff, and he forced Goff into a low throw to St. Brown, and then they run a screen to Gibbs, and Graham can't quite climb to the second level to spring him for a first down. And just on 3 plays, you see what it looks like when the interior struggles. And give the Vikings credit, because they did at times confuse the Lions. And I think we saw today, for maybe the first or second time this year, if you want to include the Packers game, the impact of no Frank Ragnow up front, who was the code cracker of that offense, especially against defenses like that.
Well, let's talk about the white elephant in the room, can we, for a second?
Where is it?
People are going to talk about John. Whoa! There it is. There's the white elephant. John Morton, the offensive coordinator, and there was some boos and stuff when they went 4 straight series with 3 and out or 3 and a fumble or whatever. But here's the blessing and the curse of the Lions offense, I think.
4 of their first 7 drives were 3 and out.
Right. But here it is. Like, you have to run the ball. You can't, when you have Gibbs and Montgomery, you can't say, oh, the run isn't working today, we're just going to throw. No, because the play action pass that Goff does so well comes from the running game. And I think sometimes when they're struggling with the run game, that's what frustrates people and points the finger at the coordinator, that he can't figure something else out, which, by the way, he probably should figure something else out in those situations.
It comes with the gig. Quick thought, guys. Trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. There's going to be all sorts of talk about, I mean, offensive line now, cornerback. Everybody wants defensive linemen or defensive ends. But we'll see what they do. It is not their MO to go out there and make a bunch of moves. But this offensive line getting a little bit.
Tennessee Titans, is Kevin Zeitler available?
Oh, yeah. What about him? They used to have him.
I would take him.
He's on a 1-year deal, and the Lions have the cap space to bring him in. And with Mahogany out, I don't know, man. I think it's incumbent upon Brad Holmes to at least try to add a starting caliber player at that position. And it's hard for guys to step in on offensive lines midseason. If anyone could do it, it would be the guy who started 15 games for you last season.
We'll see what happens. I mean, a lot of times it's a lot of chatter and not a lot happens. That's kind of the NFL trade deadline.
Really?
A lot of chatter. That's how it happens. That's what we're doing right now. Red Wings in action tonight.